Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here, this time reviewing on issue 1 of the 2018 series Kick-Ass. Now, unlike its original run that featured Dave, the 2018 version of Kick-Ass is meant to feature ex-soldier as well as single mother Patience becoming the new Kick-Ass. And the best way I can sort of see what the story is trying to say, how obviously some people will go through criminal means to try and feed or try and fend their family and their neighborhood, but it can come from misguided intentions, basically setting a bad example towards the community, as well as that sometimes your methods in that could also do a lot more harm if left unchecked. So the cover mainly has Patience in her room, in her kick-ass outfit, so let's get on with the story. It starts off how in New Mexico, we see how right away she's been captured, and we see how the crime boss says, "Who the hell's this they got? Get him inside before somebody sees them." So of course, they bring her right to their boss, and saying, "A superhero. We got a superhero creeping around out in the backs of the clubs. Jesus, Angelo, do you tell me you guys knew Spider-Man? Get the mask off and see who's under it." So of course we see how 12 weeks ago, Patience was basically a soldier fighting in Afghanistan, and right away has to deal with a dangerous situation with enemy forces. And right away we see how her unit makes quick work of the other soldiers, and of course her as well as her sort of teammate realise that the other sort of Afghanistani rebels are going to break through any minute, so have to come up with a new plan. And basically they take the sort of vehicle and go full on Call of Duty. So of course they understand the stakes at risk and get help from their sort of teammates. And right away we see how this is going to be Patience's last mission, and that she's going to be going back to her family, thinking that everything's going to be sort of all figured out now. And we see how as soon as she gets back to American soil, we see how she's let known by her family that her husband has basically left. And of course, it's kind of shown right away that Patience's husband really isn't much of a successful guy, and kind of has these deluded fantasies about being a songwriter. And we see right away, rather than seeing things from his wife's perspectives, he still acts and feels like he's got everything figured out when he hasn't, and just uses the sort of girl that he's met as a way to feel some form of importance, showing up dangers of self-delusion, trying to be in the right all the time, and acts as if she was in the wrong, not him. And of course, right away, we see how Patience's dreams are now crushed, and has to kind of find a way to make ends meet. And we see right away she starts kind of getting a job working as a bartender, sort of trying to make the ends meet. And we even get words from her sort of one of her family members that obviously right away that her ex-husband was in balls of debt, showing that Patience didn't really stop to see how much trouble her ex-husband was causing. Now there is another scene that I can't show because obviously YouTube. So gets motivated in her own way and becomes this sort of new kick-ass. So of course plans to go around neighborhoods, deal with gangs, steal their money to try and support herself as well as her kids. And we see right away she gets caught right away, and of course is born right towards their boss and saying, "What's your name?" "Kick-Ass." "What did she just say?" "We kick your ass, more like it." And we see right away the crime boss gets his gun, and we see him saying, "You're a comic book fan. Here to make some kind of citizen's arrest? Because the man used to read comic books, he was really shy, never liked the real world, so he bought into some crazy stories where everything worked out, which kind of implies that him and Chris might actually be related. And it shows right away, unlike Dave, Patience is basically fought in the army. She has combat skills right away and makes quick work of the sort of hired goons. And of course, gets his gun, puts it towards the guy, and saying, "Now, hand the money in the bag or I'll blow your damn head off." And ending the story right there. So, I think my best thoughts about the first issue of the 2018 series, it's not bad, but it obviously knows the story it needs to tell, showing how there are people like Patience who do end up kind of resorting to becoming a vigilante through money problems, either because they believe that they're doing what they think is right, or sometimes their misguided intentions can end up doing a lot more harm than good. And unlike Dave, who just kind of got inspired to fight crime from reading comics, Patience only did it to try and still support her family, despite some misguided intentions, and failure to see if this is really gonna work in the long run, because if something goes wrong, she could put herself, her family, and those in danger, showing that misguided intentions can come with a dangerous price. So, definitely good, definitely readable, and still deserves our thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, comic book reviewer here, signing out.